And then there's Ellen DeGeneres. In the mid-90s, she was often referred to as the female Seinfeld, shorthand for a stand-up comedian with a massively popular TV show. But as we would all learn, she also had a big secret.
Back in the 1990s, I went to a couple of unforgettable celebrations. One was a commitment ceremony, my own, which my grandmother called our wedding. This was long before marriage equality was the law of the land, and people like us had commitment ceremonies, not weddings. The other celebration was a viewing party for the coming-out episode of Ellen, the popular ABC television sitcom starring Ellen DeGeneres. 20 years ago, the one-hour, two-part episode in which Ellen's character, Ellen Morgan, came out of the closet was watched by more than 40 million people. That included me, my partner, and 100 lesbians packed into a one-bedroom apartment in Chelsea in New York City. Our host that evening was my friend Ann Northrup, the famous ACT UP activist. It was such a different time. There were no lead gay characters on television until Ellen Morgan came out. And what made her coming out even more exciting was that Ellen DeGeneres, who played Ellen Morgan, came out at the same time, on the Oprah Winfrey Show, in an interview with Diane Sawyer, and famously on the cover of Time magazine. That was when Time magazine was, well, Time magazine. Take my word for it, Ellen DeGeneres on the cover with the headline, "Yep, I'm Gay," was a huge deal. It was a first-rate media storm, and Ellen handled it with a kind of grace and sense of humor that made me proud to be a member of her tribe. So, when I had the opportunity to write an updated edition of my oral history book about the LGBTQ civil rights movement 10 years after the first edition was published, Ellen DeGeneres was at the top of my list for new interviews. And she said yes. Here's the scene. It's 4 p.m. on Saturday, February 17th, 2001. 2.5 years after Ellen's sitcom was canceled. I'm in the hills above Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, standing at the doorway of Ellen's modernist house, looking at the video intercom while I take a few deep breaths. I'm just a bit nervous. I push the buzzer, and after a while, Ellen answers with a hello that has a question mark embedded in it. Turns out she's forgotten about the interview, and I have to explain who I am and why I'm there. A minute later, Ellen greets me at the door. She really wasn't expecting me. She's dressed in a fleece top over a t-shirt, checked pajama bottoms, and thick socks. Her hair is a mess. I'm not nervous anymore. Ellen is very polite and apologetic as she leads me into the living room. Along the way, she introduces me to her very friendly cat, a silver, black, and gray kitty with white paws and a white belly to match. Ellen's living room is loft-like, with lots of glass overlooking a garden that backs up against a hill. It's an elegant, comfortable space, and we take our places on a long taupe mohair sofa, one of a pair facing each other across a long wood table stacked with art books. I unzip my backpack, and as soon as I get my tape recorder out, Ellen's cat dives in to see what else is inside. I place the tape recorder between us, attach the lapel mic to Ellen's fleece top, and I press record.
Saturday, February 17th, 2001. Location is the home of Ellen DeGeneres in Los Angeles, California. Interviewer is Eric Marcus, tape 1, side 1. Just say your name and spell your name for me.
Ellen DeGeneres, ELLENDEGENERES.
Does he like to sit in people's laps?
Oh, he'll join you, probably. But he's not real affectionate in that way. He'll show up and then he'll walk away.
My cat wasn't either. She'd sit at the foot of my bed when I was little. I had colds all the time.
Yeah.
She'd sit at the foot of the bed and wait, but she didn't like to sit in my bed.
Right. The other one's more like that.
So, I'm going to jump right in.
All right.
When did you first learn about gay people?
When did I learn about gay people?
When were you aware of them?
I really didn't get involved at all in any kind of politics or any awareness of gay struggles, gay movement, anything at all until I came out. Just lived my life and all the way up until, I decided to make it public, but everybody knew that I was gay, and it wasn't a problem for anybody, so I just, I lived my life, and I did my work, and I think that that's what a lot of people choose to do, and just feel like there's no need to do anything else. It's fine. Like, what's the problem? Why do we need to do anything? Until you find out about the teenagers and the struggles that most kids go through in high schools, and the statistics and the bashing, whether it's verbal abuse or physical abuse, until you're really confronted with that, you don't think that there's a problem.
So growing up, you were never called names and never hassled about?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And in your family, it wasn't an issue?
They didn't know. I didn't know I was gay.
Right.
I had thoughts of liking girls. It was very clear to me that I liked girls, but I didn't think it was anything that I could actually pursue, and that was an option for, I just thought you had a boyfriend and got married and had a kid. But I didn't ever fake it. I didn't pretend to have a boyfriend or anything like that. I knew I had to fake it when I was doing stand-up on stage, and your whole, goal is to get the audience to really like you. And it's hard enough to get them to like you when you're a girl on stage. I knew that was going to be an uphill battle if they thought I was gay. It was going to be impossible. I hid that all the way, publicly until I came out, because I knew that would hurt my career.
What was it, though, that made you think that it could hurt your career? What did you see that made you...
It's what I didn't see. I mean, I didn't see anyone else that was openly gay. And there was obviously a reason for that. And you hear about the people that are in the business that are, and you see how they handle their public persona, and so you kind of follow that. And when I decided that it was more important to be me and more important to live my life truthfully and to follow what my soul's path is, that's when a lot of crying started. And I realized how much fear and how much pain was surrounding my sexuality. I didn't have a choice. It's so big of a thing to me that it didn't matter if I was going to lose all of my money, my career. It didn't matter. It just was what I had to do, and that became more important for the first time than my career.
How quick was that process of going from believing that your career was the most important to feeling like, if I don't say who I am and live who I am, I can't go on with this?
Well, who knows how long it had been bubbling,
yeah.
But when the light bulb all of a sudden went off, I think it probably was a matter of a couple of months. And I made that decision. I told my writers that I was going to come out, and then I wanted the character to come out at the same time. So that kind of happened almost, and then it took about a year for Disney to say, okay, we're going to allow this. Mm-hmm. When they were saying, I don't know, and I kept saying to them over and over again, you're a huge company that can just cancel my show and move on and have another show. I'm the one that stands to lose everything. And if I'm willing to do this, then at least you can be willing to do this. I just didn't care at the time. If I would have been fully aware of all the consequences and, oh my God, that, the public is going to hate me and the press is going to attack me and it's going to, I'm really going to lose a lot of people, maybe I wouldn't have done it, or, but I don't think I had a choice. And I was naive enough to think, yeah, but okay, they've already seen the show for 4 years and they know who I am, they like me, I make them happy, I see the response I get, I have people who, love me, who are grandmothers and young kids and all colors and all ages, and they're going to see that gay people are not what they, everybody has a certain thing they cling on to and decide that's what everybody is. And so maybe I can help open their eyes and help, and, it was tough because I think that it's hard for me to talk about this at this time in my life because I don't know how I'm going to feel, later. But at the time that I came out, I also met somebody who was completely fearless in saying, we're going to walk down the red carpet and hold hands. I think I came out bigger than I ever intended on coming out, because of meeting someone at that particular time. It was just going to be a statement about my sexuality, not, here's what I look like in a relationship, and let's follow me and watch me grow like a chia pet. I really felt like every step of every phase, everything was suddenly public, and I never intended on it being that. I just really wanted to free myself of that prison that I was in, and it's taken my life in a completely different direction, because being a comedian, you just really want to get back to entertaining and being funny, and I hope that happens.
Tell me the premise of the show. The premise of your show, basically, who Ellen is and the store and all that, and then we'll get to that. Does it work?
She worked. She owned a bookstore, and then she managed a bookstore. I think she bought it and then she managed it. We went through a lot of incarnations. We were just trying to keep the show afloat. We were like, what the hell is the show? Until we found out what it was, which is, oh, she's gay. And that would have been, we could have gone another few years easily on that, which, you look back now and you see, all the shows that are on the air now, and you see Will and Grace, and it's like, we had so many more years we could have gone with that premise, had we not, if we had the studio and the network behind us, if they would have just held on. They didn't say, let's make this the show, let's just hold on and people will catch up to this.
I get the sense they were scared and didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I don't think it was just ABC, and I don't think it was just Disney. I think anybody would have done that at the time. It was brand new, and they didn't know what to do. And I was just like, what's so hard about this? This is who I am. Can't you see that this is why I'm struggling? Can't you see? And plus, on top of that, just getting all the letters of the people that I affected and how many impacted, and the kids, it was like, you don't understand how important this is. And then when the advisory label came on, which surprised the hell out of me, suddenly there was a warning label to put the kids away, don't let kids see this. It's like, no, that's exactly what I'm trying to get, through to you. It's like, don't put a warning label on this is me, and you're discriminating against me. And so
they didn't warn you.
Oh, no, nobody told me about that. I just was watching one night, and it came on, this big, loud voice, and, caution, this show contains adult content. And it's like, adult content? You turn on any other show on television, and they're sleeping with each other, and they're not married, and that's, kids can see that. That's okay for them to see. They can see, sexual innuendos, all these jokes about, there are penis jokes on just about every single show. You can see violence. You can see on any 1 hour drama somebody killing somebody else, but you can't see someone telling or holding hands or being with somebody that. So that was like, that put me through the roof. So I had meetings and I became trouble. I'm an easygoing person. I'm very easy to get along with. And suddenly I became somebody who was going to stand up and say, that's not right. And they didn't want that, especially from a woman, especially from a gay woman. And I was just too much trouble. And
you were a lot of trouble. They didn't know what to do with you.
And they thought it would be best just to get rid of me. Mm-hmm. And maybe they were right. Maybe I just needed to cool down a little bit, But, it was very hard for me to deal with all that and process, you're basically, confirming everything I've feared. Like, you don't like me as much and you're not going to put up with as much. What I had been tortured, by for so long is, as the show was popular and as I was, hosting the Emmys and the Grammys, and like my career started getting, I was a bigger personality, a bigger celebrity, I was being interviewed more and more, and they would always, and even though they knew, they were just so, sneaky about it, and they would say, so, what about your personal life? And they knew that I was gay, and I'd have to say, I don't talk about my personal life, and that's a, legitimate answer. I think most people are allowed to say, you don't talk about your personal life, which I think I'll be saying the rest of my life. But no straight person, no heterosexual person is going to say, I'm not going to tell you if I'm, it's like they're not ashamed that they're straight. They're just not going to talk about their personal life. That was my torture, not being able to say those words when they ask you in an interview to just go, oh, my personal life, I'm gay. The fun that would have been just to do that but you couldn't do that and you couldn't. So for me on the show to be able to say I'm gay was like, I cried every take we did, every time we did that. Even in rehearsal I'd cry when I did it. Because it was such a release for me. That goes back to God, so much that's around that just cracked open.
When the show was over, when you finished taping, was there a reaction from the audience at the end? What was the feeling on the set? I
think I was too high to even know. I was like, everybody said I looked like, something had just lifted off of me. Yeah, I'm sure. I let go of a heaviness, We had to clear out pretty fast because there was a bomb threat. The studio had a bomb threat, so we had to get out real quick.
The bomb threat was because of you and your show.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't for the catering. Yeah. They were.
Yeah. When Matthew Shepard was killed, do you remember what your reaction was to that news?
Yes. He was still alive. I called the hospital when I found out about it and talked to somebody at the hospital, and they said that his parents were not receiving phone calls. I was just trying to see if there was anything I could do. We flew out thinking that he was still going to be alive, and then he died when we were planning the whole thing. I think I really thought that should have been me. I really thought that I would be killed for what I did. And that here's this innocent guy that got killed and he didn't do anything. He was just gay. He didn't make a statement. I was the one who was the threat. I was the one that was upsetting people, and I was the one and I really thought it wasn't fair. That's a horrible thing to say. That I don't mean that, it wasn't fair. You understand what I'm saying. It's like, I thought, he did not deserve that. And it's why I did what I did, so it would stop, so people would understand and stop the hatred and stop the judgment. And I was talking to a friend of his that they were at a party watching the Coming Out episode, and how Matthew was so happy, and how it's just so weird to know that Matthew was watching that show. I don't know. I hope I'm explaining it right, because I don't want it to sound like, I've been afraid to say that out loud for a long time, because it was such a fear of mine. I dealt with it in therapy, that I really thought that I would be killed for what I was doing, because kids loved my show, and I thought if there's somebody going to an abortion clinic because they don't agree with that, who knows? And we did get a bomb threat that night, and I did get, death threats and all. I thought, it's inevitable. I'm going to, be in danger.
What kinds of letters did you get? You said you got hate mail, you also got other mail. What kinds of letters did you get?
People telling me, writing me, or telling me that they came out because of me, or realizing they were gay because of me, that they didn't realize it. And also, the parties that went on around the country that night. Like, when else have we had an excuse to have parties like that? Like, I wish that would happen again. I wish somebody would do something so I could have like that kind of, because it really did feel like this magical, like everybody can remember that night, like especially in the gay community, it's just like what happened for everybody. We united and we felt like, and I can't really feel that because I'm in it, so I don't know what that was like, but I can imagine what that must have been like for everybody else to have that kind of party. And someone called from New York and said, you could just hear like cheering from other apartment buildings, and and that the streets were emptied and restaurants were closing, and that seems like a lot of fun, being a comedian is a very different thing than being an actor, because when you're a comedian, you actually make people happy. So they come up to you and they really have a different response to you because they like you. And also being on TV every single week, they feel like they know you. But because of what I did, unless people are just completely narrow-minded and just evil, most people, the reaction that I get, I think that there's so much respect for what I did, even if they don't fully understand it, but they really appreciate the fact and understand that I did something that not too many people do.
Did that help sustain you through some of the difficult times that came in the year following? Did that help at all during the following year? Or?
It certainly helped. I mean, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have had, because the press got pretty nasty. The press really turned against me and really took advantage of, pointing out the ratings, sagging ratings, and it mattered to me always. It always mattered to me what people thought of me, even though I'd forgotten that for a while, to say, I'm gay and I'm going to say it, and I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care if I lose everything. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, okay, yes, now I'm gay and I'm free, and then the reality hits like this big wave going, we hate you. We think you're off the air now. We don't want to watch you. We're going to show you when you're that depressed and people are like, but you don't know how many people you've changed, and, it's like, but yeah, I'm sad.
How was it coming back? How different was it coming back to stand up now from before? Because now you're coming there as your whole person as opposed to...
Well, it's great, but that personal stuff had to come out of me to get that out of the way. Because that's actually, I keep pointing because there's a TV there, but it's more political and more personal than anything I've ever done on stage. And I think I needed to do that. But it's helped me in being, free to say whatever I want on stage and not worry that something's going to give something away. And, oh, God, I can't talk about that because then they'll know I'm gay. Or I can't talk about that because that's going to offend somebody. Or I can't talk about that. It's like, now it's like, I'll say anything. And to me, the only thing that's important is honesty. And as long as I'm being honest with my feelings and coming from a good place and coming from a true place, it can't possibly hurt anybody.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you had wanted to comment on, although I know you didn't know I was coming?
I want to comment on that I feel like a crazy person. I feel like one of these people that you come to see after like their careers, and I'm in like, at least I'm not in a bathrobe, like I'm in,
It's like VH1 behind the music.
Right.
Either they're dead or they're drug addicted.
Or they're like, you show up and I'm like in my pajamas on a Saturday afternoon. This is my glamorous life. I want to say that I usually dress a lot better than this. So when you're saying she was dressed in pajamas, there's no alcohol in my breath. I haven't been drinking. It's been water, and I feel secure in that. I feel secure in my pajamas.
The place Ellen holds in our hearts and on TV was not guaranteed at the time I interviewed her. I don't think anyone, including Ellen, would have predicted that she'd host one of the most popular, long-running daytime television shows of all time. And that's on top of hosting award shows, doing stand-up, and winning 30 Emmy Awards and more People's Choice Awards than anyone. Ever. Add to that the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award. Here's what President Obama had to say at the White House that day in November 2016.
It's easy to forget now. When we've come so far, we're now marriage is equal under the law. Just how much courage was required for Ellen to come out on the most public of stages almost 20 years ago. Just how important it was, not just to the LGBT community, but for all of us, to see somebody so full of kindness and light, somebody we liked so much, somebody who could be our neighbor or our colleague or our sister, challenge our own assumptions, remind us that we have more in common than we realize, push our country in the direction of justice.
Amen. Making Gay History is a team effort. Many thanks to our very hardworking executive producer, Sarah Birmingham, and audio engineer, Ann Pope. We had production assistance from Jenna Weiss-Berman and Josh Gwynn. Our theme music was composed by Fritz Myers. Thank you also to social media strategist Will Coley, our webmaster Jonathan Dozer-Ezel, and researchers Bronwyn Pardis and Zachary Seltzer. A special thank you to Ellen's mother, Betty DeGeneres, an LGBTQ civil rights activist in her own right, who introduced me to Ellen back in 2001.